Welcome in to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show. Let's go. What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog Media, Underdog Fantasy, and just your weekly reminder, because you got to be persistent in this industry. Repetition matters. When you use promo code TRIPLE, they're going to match your deposit up to $100. That's triple digits we're talking about. That is generous. I do not think we talk about that enough, that they are offering a deposit match up to 3 digits. So what can I say? They're offering you great stuff. No D-Mendy again, still on the IL, maybe a little bit of a minor setback with this thing called life. But the two handsome gentlemen who held it down last week, the veterans of the show. I'm going to give the host first some flowers. Marty Tallman, how's it going?
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, that was fun hosting the show last week. Hope we did the show justice. I know Art and I had a lot of fun. But yeah, excited for another week of baseball. Excited you're back too.
Let me tell you, I think one of the best parts of the show was at the end, just how you did the sign off. I had to listen to that back a couple times. You are a family man staying on brand. Just didn't sound the same coming from you, but I like it.
Yeah, I gave it a shot. I didn't know. It's one of those things you don't know you know it until you're saying it out loud. And I was like, oh, I got it all. All right, good. But yeah, shout out to you both.
Well, hey, the other both that he's talking about is Art TPF on the X. That's little LC, the new camera setup. Look at him. He's just slouching in the background. He's chilling. What's up, Art?
I'm chilling. I mean, it was so much fun last week doing that. We got David. He's like Kodai Senga. He keeps getting setbacks on his return from the IL. He has a sore tendon in his triceps now. So he's the official Kodai Senga of the show. It is so much fun doing the show last week. So awesome to have you back. I'm stoked to have another week in the books in fantasy baseball, and stoked to talk to you guys about it.
I mean, look, we are almost at Memorial Day. We are almost in June. We're getting in the dead heat of summer. And this is, once again, going to be repetition. This is the grind of the season. We are in week 9. Most home leagues are 20 to 22 weeks. And we have another 4+ months, which is a bit, if you're a baseball fan, that's great. If you're a fantasy manager, you better buckle up. There's still plenty of the season to go. And what better way to start off than with some WOW players, and work got a little bit in the way this week, so I don't have the graphics made. But the first person I want to talk about, and Marty, I'm going to go to you with him, Joey Ortiz. You might have heard that name. He was involved in a trade this offseason with Corbin Burns. He is on the other side getting sent to the Milwaukee Brewers. Over the last 7 days, a 421, 560, 842 triple slash, 2 homers and 4 RBIs. It is also important to note he's only 25 years old. And the Brewers, primed in the NL Central, wasted no time giving him an everyday role. He's played in 41 games so far, but over the last week, do you like what you're seeing from him? Obviously, he can't sustain it, but what are your thoughts on him rest of the season?
So Joey Ortiz is somebody who I struck out against for Fab this week. For reference here, this is a 15-team league. Galarf, he went for, what was it? Joey Ortiz, $78 by Dave McDonald. So pretty
good
heavy
bid.
investment.
That's a good bid. That's a good bid.
It's good. It's a good bid, and the runner-up was 47. So yeah, I think that's fair. Second base, third base eligibility, specifically on Yahoo. Shout out to it. But I mean, you have to absolutely love everything you're seeing from him. I mean, XBA's 271. He's not striking out at all. I mean, he's striking out 16% of the time, and he's walking 14% of the time. So the plate discipline's there. He's able to see the ball. I don't think we're going to see power numbers from him. I think coming from New Mexico State, I think 10, 15 home runs, over a full season is kind of where he'll be at. But he's already ahead of that pace now, and who knows, maybe he can unlock something in that ballpark. But I don't know if he's a 10 team. He's still up. I don't think anyone's picked him up in my 10-team league, so I don't know.
That's what we're going to use for reference.
That's what you have to, especially players.
You have are all 10 active managers? Because otherwise, we're talking about a 9-team league.
Yeah, no, they're all. Everyone's in on it.
Okay. I think that's a pretty fair observation. And look, I mean, if anything, the multi-position eligibility is something that's really going to help as especially when more of these injuries pick up. So that's definitely something that, if you've been able to capitalize on the last week, that's great. He's locked in for an everyday role, it seems. The next person to talk about, Mr. Alec Burleson for the St. Louis Cardinals. And I'm pulling up his stats. Computer is freezing on me right now. But what you do like about him, an everyday playing role. That's one of the things I think going into not only this year, but last year we were concerned is, are the at-bats going to be there every day? And Jordan Walker demoted, Tyler O'Neill got traded. The Cardinals kind of seem to be at a flux right now. They have won 6 of their last 8 after losing about 7 in a row. But for the season, he's hit 5 homers, 17 RBIs, 2 steals, and what is to notice, he had 3 all of last season. The walk percentage is down from 6.6 to 4.6, so he was never a guy that got on the base pass a lot via a free pass. K percentage up slightly from 13 to 16.9%. Art, do we see a downtrend for Alec Burleson? And I say that with the BABIP being 333.
Burleson has the 6th highest WRC plus in all of baseball over the past 2 weeks. He's up there with Marcelo Ozuna. He's up there with Luke Raley, who's been super hot. He's been super hot. And St. Louis needs him badly. As you said, he's playing every day. I recently picked him up in in one of my 15-team leagues because I needed an outfielder, and I think it's a good pickup. I think he's someone who I'm expecting to keep for hopefully the rest of the season. His zone contact rate is good. It's above average, 85%. He's not hitting a ton of barrels this season, and his max EV is not great, but hits the ball at a good launch angle for home runs. I think he could produce a decent 15 to 20 home run season. What do they have? Rest of season projections for Burleson. Have they started there? There's no one who's really started to take into account and give him rest of season starting projections for rest of the season. But I think with how desperate St. Louis is for players, for hitting, Burleson has a runway to cement his position in the lineup right now. Nootbaar is starting to pick it up a little bit, but they've been starving for production. So I like him to continue to hold his spot, and I think he could hit as many as 10, 15 more home runs this season.
I mean, they'd be stupid to bench him. He's hitting 480 with 2 homers and 4 RBIs over the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't say he's the best Cardinals hitter. Nolan Arenado, I'd say, actually, I'm going to ask, is Alec Burleson the best hitter on the Cardinals this season?
Well, I looked at the rest of season projections, and the Bad X has him for 4 more home runs for the rest of the year. So the projections are not believing him just yet. Mm-hmm. That's a good question about the best hitter. I mean, I'm still giving it to Nolan Arenado
or Goldschmidt, maybe, if you want to just
I don't know about Goldschmidt. I don't know about Goldschmidt. Let's kind of hold that. Let's put the pause on. Red light.
I'm trying to think. Burleson is he playing DH most of the time right now? with Wilson down. Okay, his house is. That's the one thing. Will he be the guy? Maybe is he a poor defender? Maybe he could start losing.
We don't care about defense in fantasy baseball. That's not in 5x5 scoring.
That's also 2 months from now of a question, but like it's possible that that he could see some loss of time once Contreras comes back.
Right now, he's a -2 on outs above average for defense. So
that ain't good.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, he probably could hold down most of the DH at bats until Contreras gets back, which is pretty solid.
I also want to give a shout out to Mason Wynn. Quietly having a good season. 288, a homer, 13 RBIs, 7 steals. I think that's flying a little bit under the radar. Oh, well. The Cardinals, I think they were the stable franchise for the longest time, and they made the postseason. They were always above 500, and we are starting to see a lot of dysfunction from there. But speaking of dysfunction, we're talking about someone that had a lot of dysfunction last year into this year, and over the last 2 starts has bounced back, and this is Alek Manoah out of nowhere. Over the last 2 games at home versus Tampa Bay and Minnesota, 14 innings, 5 hits, 2 walks, 13 Ks. Did I mention no earned runs? What are we seeing with Alek Manoah here? This is a complete, the Superman roller coaster? We are talking about the highest of highs over the last 2 starts and the lowest of lows where he was giving up 12 earned in single A ball, and that's only a slight exaggeration. This is a free-for-all. Marty, Art, we haven't seen anything like this, at least in my recollection. Have you seen anything with Alek Manoah recently that is giving you some optimism that he can keep this up?
His velocity is sitting at a good 94 right now on his sinker, and it is producing and he's using it a decent amount. The slider, let's see, his slider is producing above average swinging strike rate, not an elite pitch. Let's see, this is 4-seamer. The 4-seamer looks like it's producing a pretty good swinging strike rate. He's using those 3, but all 3 of them nearly 30% of the time. So the 4-seamer seems to be the most effective pitch so far. I mean, I don't know. And let's see, the 4-seamer is up a tick from last season. I'm still not ready to trust him, but 2 straight games, it's starting to build. I mean, it was inexplicable what happened to him last year. So, like, it would not surprise me if he just all of a sudden got it back. But I'm not yet trusting it. What do you think, Marty?
It is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. I was quiet at first because I'm just staying away from him because I don't know what to expect. I mean, it's just, I'm about mitigating risk as much as possible, and I can't think of anyone more riskier than Alek Manoah. And if you guys remember 2 years ago, I was his biggest fan. I thought he was great. What he was doing, he always outperforming his ERA indicators. But I mean, look at now, he has a 0.94 WHIP over those 18 innings. He's given up a little bit of he's had a little bit of luck as far as his BABIP, and the batters are making decent contact on him. I have nothing actionable as of right now. I'm waiting to see what the next 2, 3, 4, 5 outings go. Once we start, because he threw 103 pitches, so he's out there, he's hurling. Can he go every 5 days and maintain that? That's something we need to see.
And one thing I'll say about his last 2 starts, his walks have gone down a lot in the last 2 starts. So that really helps, because he's a guy, when he gets hurt, like when he got hurt against Washington, it was with the home run. And I think if he can keep his walks down, the home runs will not be as damaging. So that's something that's encouraging to see the walks go down.
So I'm going to ask you 2 questions if you think that this could have any correlation, because this just came to my head. One, he got in better shape this season and adjusted to the pitch clock. Keep in mind, he's only had 3 outings, and I'm going to give most pitchers a pass on their first outing, because I think only Pablo Lopez was the only starting day pitcher to go more than 6 innings. And second, they agreed on a $782,000 contract this year. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 2028, but a good-ish year can set him up for a slightly better payday, because I say that in his signing bonus was $4.5 million. Do you think any of those factors contribute to what we've seen a turnaround?
Man, I'll say this. The biggest thing I'm seeing, his first outing, and Art, you're exactly right, 4 walks. Next outing, 1 walk. The outing after that, 1 walk. So, yeah, if he's able to limit the base runners, that's going to help him out in the long run. But looking at like the WRC plus of the good outings he did have, one was against the Rays, who's at a 97, a WRC plus. So, I mean, that's fine, but a little bit under league average. And then the other one was the Twins. And let me see, got to go all the way down to 24th. So underwhelming matchups as far as, how talented those lineups were. But he did pitch good against them. The outside factors, is it something, I don't know if there's anything that's like adding extra motivation. I'm sure, I mean, the contract's always part of it because you have to get paid at the end of the day. But I feel like this guy's always trying extremely hard. It's kind of actually to his detriment. He's been, he's rubbed people the wrong way for how passionate he is and how much he does care. So I think that's part of it, but I think he just was able to work some things out. But this is only 2 outings. Let's revisit in a month.
That's fair. I bring up the contract and not to get off topic. There was a great article that came out today about Josh Hader and how he's finally going 2 innings plus again for the first time since 2019. And it was intentional that he is the only reliever, to our knowledge in MLB history, that him and his agent put clear limits that he is not going more than 1 inning until he got a long-term extension. And good for him. It's a smart thing to do. And look, at the end of the day, the guys love this game, but it is their job. It is their livelihood. Like, it is their livelihood, like Anthony Rendon says. And if it's a job, it's 9 to 5 to him.
Yeah, the only thing that it really rubbed the Padres players the wrong way. I think that was one of the things they said, that their closers now, or their relief pitchers, they're able to go 2 innings if we need them to. So as Padres, from a teammate perspective, probably not the best move. They didn't like him because of that, but again, they're not signing the checks.
Josh Hader, I don't think I compliment you often on this show. Great business move. Great business move. The cover boy, though, the other WOW player, Paul, Skeens. Yeah, that's where we went with this one. That's where we went with this one. I mean, what can you say about him so far? 2 games, both against the Cubs. So we know Art has watched plenty of him. First game, kind of delayed by the rain, gave up 3 earned. 2 of those were inherited from a reliever after a rain delay. But I think we saw what he is capable of. 6 innings, no hits, no earned, 1 walk, 11 Ks. He averaged 99.3 miles per hour on his fastball, generating a 44% whiff rate. We already know what he's capable of. So this is a kudos, shout out WOW player. But I want to tie in, if you are in a redraft league, are you selling him? And if so, for what? Art.
I think his value is super high, so you can get a lot for him. The question of whether you should is really the question you're asking. And I think you try for something ambitious. I would sell him if I could get something like if my pitching was good, let's just say, and I had Stash Skeens, I'd sell him for a highly drafted hitter who's performing well. Like,
would you trade him? I'm going to do some name game after I hear Marty's thoughts, and I want to know if you guys would trade him.
Okay, yeah. So with Skeens, the talent's there. I mean, I text Art. I've texted him every time. Like when Paul Skeens, both those games, I'm texting him left and right about what I'm seeing, and it's absolutely incredible. He's everything we were hoping he would be. He's absolutely incredible. Coming down to fantasy, though, how many innings will they allow him to pitch? That's the only thing that matters moving forward. So last year, he only pitched like 10, 15, 20 innings.
Didn't he pitch at LSU?
Yeah, he pitched those numbers in front of me.
I don't
Or
either.
you want to,
I'll look
someone
it up.
can pull those up. But so that's main thing is going to be looking at innings. Also, and this is something to keep an eye on as we move through the season, is who's going to be buyers in the market. With the Pittsburgh Pirates, I mean, they have Jared Jones, they have Paul Skeens, they have Mitch Keller. Those are 3 above average pitchers, that can get some wins. So will they invest back into the team and try to get better hitters? So that's one thing I'm keeping an eye on, the market, and see if there's any stirrings that the Pirates might jump in. And the reason I'm saying that is, do they have playoff hopes? And if not, we're going to see them really, really tear. Jared Jones and Skeens, they might pitch, another month or two, but there's no reason to keep them going. So, yeah, do you know?
122 at LSU.
Okay, so Skeens pitched 122 innings. Okay, so what's he at currently right now? Where is he sitting?
He is at 10.
10
on the
plus,
season? Wait, no. What is minor
10
league?
for the season.
10,
minor
yeah,
league?
10, and then 27 in the minor. So he's up 37 innings pitched. So another 100. I mean, that could get you to fall close to it.
I mean, is he going to have a whip under 1? In which case, he could be the most valuable pitcher in the game for the rest of the season.
When you watch him, it feels like you're watching a DeGrom.
It feels like this is a guy who's going to have like a .93 whip and like a ridiculous ERA. But I mean, we'll see. He'll get a blow-up game or two.
Here's my thing. I don't think that he's going to be someone that's traded in a lot of leagues. I think the people that are looking to trade him are not going to get the value they want in return. And I think savvy fantasy baseball players are not going to pay up for the reasons that Marty said. The Pirates right now are 22-26, and it's not that they're a team that has high aspirations year in, year out. They're a team that's typically a bottom dweller. They're typically a team that's a top 5, pick in the draft year in, year out. And they might be saving their arms for the future. We've seen teams when they feel like they're close, that's when they'll make a push. The Padres did it a couple of years ago when they were aggressive for Soto and for Josh Hader. But before that, they hadn't really signed a lot of guys. And then they doled out money for Bogarts, re-signed Machado, signed Tatis to an extension. I'm going to give you guys some names, both hitters and pitchers, and I want you to tell me if you would trade Paul Skeens straight up. And
Let me ask you this. Is this a head-to-head league or a roto?
I'm going to let you justify.
All right.
Vlad Jr. for Paul Skeens straight up.
I would straight up, and I'm looking at a head-to-head league. I would trade him in a head-to-head league because I know Vlad's going to be there for the playoff run for the last 3 weeks. Now, if I could see a world where you're in a roto league and you just need someone, you've been blown up, maybe you had Hunter Brown, maybe you have lost Shane Bieber, and other starting pitchers. I could see you trading for him for a month or 2 or 3 of just elite ratios, strikeouts. I don't know about the wins, but everything else is going to be there.
I think I'm holding Skeens for Vlad in most contexts. But what Marty said about head-to-head, though, it's big. That's a big.
But a big thing with Vlad, the power. 4 home runs. I'm going to take away ESPN Bet's money because like a week ago, they had over-under for the rest of the season, 29.5 home runs, and the over was favored. And I was like, they're stupid. This is the under. This is even money. I think I would trade for Vlad. It's close. It's close. And the fact that we're disagreeing, I think, shows how close it is. Another hitter, Ozzie Albies. Art, you're an Albies guy. Would you trade Skeens for him?
I think so. I mean, yeah. He offers too much at a second base. Unless I had strong middle infielders already, I would make that trade.
Yeah,
Marty?
without a doubt, I would make the trade. I would get Albies on my team. Yep.
You know what? I'm going to disagree. I would take Skeens. Ozzy Albies has been hurt this year. He had a fractured toe, which might impact his stolen bases. He has 2 on the year, 3 homers, 21 RBIs. So if he's not hitting for power, he's not hitting for speed. That means you need him to hit for average, and you need the Braves lineup to be good. And you know what? The Braves lineup has taken a huge step back. Austin Riley is banged up. We will talk about that in our injuries. I'm keeping Skeens.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, keeping an elite pitcher for a couple months. For me, it's the 5 categories. It's at the end of the day, Albies is a 2nd round draft pick. Mm-hmm. So I could see myself making that move. And like Art said, second base is a wasteland. If your second baseman got hurt, there's pretty much nothing you can do.
Okay. Ketel Marte. Now, I want to preface this. Ketel Marte is riding a 19-game hit streak. He has 1 hit in 17 of those 19 games, and the other 2, he has 2. He is batting just .266 during this streak, and he has seen his batting average dip from .309 to .291. So the irony that he is hitting consistently, just not for a good average. And I want to give credit to Ryan Spader for that tweet. I found it very insightful. Would you trade Paul Skeens for Ketel Marte?
No, I don't think so.
I would not, and the reason being, and I'm a Ketel Marte rosterer. I've had him on a lot of teams over the years. He will get hurt. He will get a soft tissue injury. He's only getting older. It's a question of when it will happen.
If you knew he would be healthy, would you do it?
I would, if I knew he would be healthy. Yes, I would take Ketel Marte.
Ketel Marte played 150 games last year, Marty.
I know he did. I had him last year. It was great. But the year before that and the year before that, it's been tough.
How old do you think Ketel Marte is?
32.
He's 30. A little bit younger than you thought. All right. Going to 2 pitchers. Would you trade Paul Skeens for Grayson Rodriguez?
No, I don't think so.
So you would keep Paul Skeens?
I would keep Skeens.
You would get Grayson Rodriguez.
I think I'd keep Skeens.
A pitcher that at this point last year had some helium, maybe not Skeens type helium, but he got his kind of like, oh, we'll limit your innings season out the way. And the O's have World Series aspirations.
Man, I think that's a pretty good one.
Thank you.
Probably a case-by-case basis. And this is a hard thing to hang your hat on, but if you really are far behind in wins, that is something you can give the Grayson Rodriguez. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Grayson has a 4.00 xERA. His strikeout percentage is at 26%, which is great, but he's walking nearly 9% of batters. So I think a pitch-by-pitch, game-by-game basis, I think Paul Skeens better. But Grayson is definitely it's less risk with Rodriguez. So in the head-to-head, I would probably do it.
Grayson is one. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing I'll say about Grayson, there was one game this year, and it was at LA Angels, which is the most ironic game that he could blow up, where he gave up 7 earned. Every other game, he's gone at least 5 innings, and he's given up 2 earned or less. So he's been a pretty consistent pitcher if you take away that one outing.
Yeah, I would be interested to see how efficient he is or inefficient he is, only getting through 5. Is that because of pitch count or is that because of innings cap? I don't have it.
He did have an IL stint this year, so I feel like they are not
still working him back in.
Yeah, okay. Still working him back. Confidence in the bullpen. No need to push it. The last one, and I guess I know where you guys are going to go. Jose Barrios, somebody that has just been an innings eater. That for the season, a 2.98 ERA, a 1.11 WHIP, 5 wins.
No, I would keep Paul Skeens 10 times out of 10.
Yes.
I love it. I love Jose Barrios. I've had him on many teams over the years, but no, you can't trust that guy. You just can't do it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm also sipping all of the Paul Skeens Kool-Aid right now after. I mean, he had like a Maddox 2-seam backdoor pitch, and that's just not fair, when you throw 100 otherwise. You shouldn't be able to have it tail 12 inches and catch the corner.
And what the craziest part of the second game is, it was the worst umped game according to missing strikes. And he missed several strikes. There were Skeens just nipping the corner, and he didn't call it. So he even had that against him, and he still had that kind of outing. It's crazy.
I don't want to hear it.
One of the things that I love about Skeens when they're interviewing him and they said, what do you think players are going to do when they have more film on you? And he said, good luck.
Yeah.
That's the type of confidence you love. That's the Max Scherzer confidence. That's the Justin Verlander confidence. Did I say his last name right or still no?
You said it like you do, and I love the
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, I've made a conscious effort. But you love the confidence from guys like that. Those are ones that want to take the mound. Those are the ones that attack the strike zone. And I love a pitcher that's not afraid to throw strikes and believes in their stuff. But yeah, I think really good talk there. And the time to have these Skeens conversations, if you're looking to trade him, is now, because pitchers and prospects with this much hype in general, I remember this with Wander Franco especially, they are not going to have more trade value than they do now.
Yeah, and we talk about pitchers, really maxing out their velocity, and I don't know who's doing that more than him. I mean, he comes out of the gate shooting 101. So talk about potential injuries. I don't wish that on him, obviously, but it's something that, especially with this year, something you have to at least consider, that he's going to be hurling at every single pitch, which can leave you vulnerable to an injury.
I think that's perfectly why you have to talk about the trade scenario now. Do you want to get some value before you lose him for nothing? And I know in our 12-team league, he was a free agent until about 2 to 3 weeks before getting called up. So not somebody you had to spend a high draft pick on, and somebody that you could flip for some value. I think that's a good general manager move. Even if you traded him, you got some value back. Even if it's the Albies, the Marte, that's a savvy move right there. Looking at some injuries, though, and not that we wish them on anyone, but just going through the list. Max Muncy placed on the IL this week with a grade 1 oblique strain. Those are tricky. I'd say expect him out 2 weeks, hopefully. He's a little bit of an older guy.
I would go to 4 with him. 4 weeks for Muncy, just because of his age, because of how the Dodgers handle injuries, and they always like to get him a rehab assignment.
They do. And maybe going back every day isn't what they have in the cards for him. Remember, World Series aspiration. Maybe they play him every 2 out of 3, and they strictly DH him. Zach Eflin, back tightness, out 2 to 4 weeks. This stems from a back issue he had last season that kept him out 2 weeks. That gives me a little bit more of a pause that it's a reoccurring injury and that it's a Rays starting pitcher getting hurt.
Yeah, the Rays have not had a good track record over the last 2 seasons, so it's well-earned reputation from you, Eric.
Oh, thank you. Never forget. Austin Riley, they have not put him on the IL yet, but he continues to be day-to-day with oblique tightness. He has started taking fielding drills, nothing with hitting yet. Are you guys worried about this at all? I mean, we're talking about Max Muncy, a grade 1 oblique strain. They didn't give a timeline. Marty thinks 4 weeks. I mean, do you think that this is more than a day-to-day issue for Austin Riley?
I do, and it's something that's happening all around the league, from Sean Murphy to, a bunch of other players, these oblique injuries, and it's because they're swinging literally as hard as they possibly can. And so anytime you do that, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to that injury, twisting your core at that velocity. And we go to his bat speed, it's in the 89th percentile. So very few people are swinging the ball faster through that zone and getting that torque as Austin Riley is. So I don't think a long-term season injury or anything like that. I think maybe they should sit him for a week or 2. I think that would probably help him out. And I think this would be a good time to go trade for him.
Okay. I like that. He's somebody that I was targeting a couple weeks ago, Marty. Great minds think alike. Paul Blackburn, stress reaction in foot. There is no timeline for his return, but it seems like something that could hopefully be a short period of time. Jung-Hoo Lee, dislocated shoulder, out for the season, trying to rob a home run, and he had already hurt that shoulder. So not looking too good for him. But talking about some positive with some players that have been reactivated. Nolan Jones expected to get activated off the IL tomorrow. Dansby Swanson activated off the IL prior to today's game. A little bit of a disappointing season. We'll see if he can pick it up. Ryan Pepio threw a 3-inning bullpen session. This comes a couple weeks after he got hit with a 107-mile-per-hour comebacker. So hopefully nothing wrong structurally, just sounded like a bad bone bruise. And Joe Musgrove off the IL, started tonight's game against the Cincinnati Reds, and he did not have a good outing.
How bad was it?
The defense didn't help him out. The defense did not help him out. I'm going to pull it up right now. I know he was at 65 pitches in the third inning. I know it was not good. His final stat line was, let me pull it up right here. Andrew Abbott had a good game, though. That's a little unexpected. Joe Musgrove, 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned, none of them, or 2 runs, none of them earned, 2 walks, 3 Ks, 66 pitches.
3 innings pitch.
None of them earned, though.
There we go. You're looking at someone who did start him in Glarf, so that's why you could maybe hear the listeners can hear the fear in my voice when I asked how bad it was.
Here's the thing about Musgrove. He had elbow and shoulder issues before this season.
I think he's toast, man.
100%.
For this year.
Bring out the butter. Yeah. Bring out the butter, because he's toast.
Man, if you can sell on Joe Musgrove, and I think he's in my MySpace top 8 for this year. So one of my most rostered pitchers, and I would sell if anyone would take him.
I wanted to put a couple other. Blake Snell's supposed to pitch tomorrow as well. He's coming back.
Okay.
And Friday also for your weekend lineups, Lane Thomas and Rhys Hoskins should be coming back too.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Love some good news. It is, Marty, with Musgrove, did that forearm injury or elbow injury he had all of last season, that not scare you off?
Yeah, it was the elbow injury, but it was because, it might have been shoulder, actually. But either way, yes, there was that pre-existing injury that hampered him and made him ended his year a little bit sooner. But I got him, it was where he was going. At that point, it was like the 7th round of a 15-team league. All around him was Cole Reagans. A hindsight, I probably would have went Cole Reagan. I mean, I would have went Cole Reagans. But that was kind of Musgrove at that point to me was like the last tier of a good SP2, maybe SP3. I was wrong. He wasn't. So, but we'll see. I mean, hey, maybe he has all year to prove, and he's been a slow starter before. But it's not looking good. Everything looks bad.
Well, hopefully that's the reverse jinx. But staying on the topic of injured players, I want to talk about this, and I want to give Art credit for this segment. An injured stash, this or that being players. So 2 guys that are both now on the IL, and if you could stash either or, who you taking? So the first, TJ Friedel, who fractured his thumb. He's hitting off a tee. No timetable for his return. Or Masataka, third option on thumb, Yoshida. So May 10th was going to be when he's going to start swinging. Both thumb injuries. Yoshida does not require surgery. Art, who are you going with if you have to stash one?
I think I'm going with Yoshida just because this is the 2nd thumb injury for Friedel this year.
He had a wrist. First one was a wrist fracture.
Was it a wrist fracture? It's
a wrist fracture.
The second hand related injury for him. I think his power was already sort of really dependent on the park. So I think that with his hands being injured, when he comes back, he's not going to be the 5-tool player that he was. Yoshida could have the same, sort of power issues, but we weren't looking to Yoshida for like a power bat. He was a batting average play.
Yeah, I completely agree with Art. I guess the only thing I would add is I think TJ Friedel has a higher ceiling and Yoshida has a higher floor. So it really depends where you are at in your journey this year. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong. I think they're pretty equal.
I'm going Yoshida just for the reason Art said. 2 injuries to begin the season, the physical, the mental hurdle. These are guys both low on my totem pole, but I'm going Yoshida. Next, the catcher position. Wilson Contreras, expected mid to late July, fractured forearm, or Francisco Alvarez, right now expected late June. The last update 2 weeks ago had stitches removed from his surgically repaired left thumb to address a torn UCL. I'm going my answer based on how I saw the video of the injury. Wilson Contreras looks nasty. As somebody that has broke both of his arms, I know that hurt. I would not be surprised if he's out the rest of the season. That looked like it hurt. Francisco Alvarez, I'm not discrediting the thumb at all, but I have a little bit more confidence because he could always DH. If he doesn't feel comfortable catching, he can DH. When it's your arm, now we start getting a little more risky territory. Anybody?
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, so it's not going to be. I'm gonna do the Wilson Contreras, and the reason being he's a better hitter. He's a better hitter. He's a better catcher. I think they're going to get him back as soon as they can. If not, just to have like the fan base not hate that team as much as they do right now, which is surprising for the best fans in the world, St. Louis Cardinals, to be so rude to their club when they have a couple down seasons. But long story short, I don't like what Alvarez. There's nothing about Francisco Alvarez that has ever made me want to roster him, and I know Wilson Contreras still has it.
I have Contreras, and I have not dropped him yet. Part of the reason why I put this up is because, I've been sitting. I picked up a third catcher, and I'm just sitting there with him, and I'm like, is he really going to be ready in mid-July? That was my first question. How long is it? How long is the timetable from when his expected return is before he's actually in your lineup and playing? So he could be up as much as a month behind Alvarez. I agree with Marty that I don't think Alvarez's profile is the type I really love, but if I'm hurting for catcher, I may just want the one coming back sooner in Alvarez, even though I think Contreras is a much better player.
Oh, we're not debating that. We're debating which one you'd rather want. And with catcher, especially in a single catcher league where you're probably punting that position, I am going with the one that's going to come back sooner. Hopefully.
But if it's truly a stash, though, in my mind, that is you don't need them right now, right? So you have a catcher who you're fine with, or at least who can tread water. So I think there's more upside with the Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
So that would make me want to stash him more. That makes sense.
Marty, I get where you're coming with this because you're saying it's an IL spot, but at some point you might have to activate them. Like, let's say your team just gets hurt by injuries with 4 in a week, then you're probably going to drop him where maybe you could stomach Alvarez. It is an interesting question when we're talking about stashing, because I think you bring up a good point. He has the higher upside. You're stashing him in an IL spot. Why would you not want the better player?
Yep.
The last one, Josh Young, who, man, you got to feel for the guy. Injury after injury. For this one, this came out Saturday. They're still saying 6 weeks away from returning after undergoing right wrist surgery for a fractured wrist, and it was trickier than initially anticipated versus Tristan Casas, rib fracture, expected back late June. But if you see him on the sideline, he's imitating every swing. So, Art, you can have one out of the two guys for your corner infield. Who are you picking?
I think it's Casas due to the fact that Young has had this recent setback. It seems like maybe it's his body, because he seemed to come back slowly in the spring from the knee injury. So he seems to, maybe I'm reading into this and just doing a narrative here. He seems to heal slowly, but the setback doesn't, kind of adds to that sort of narrative for me that we may not see the last of the setbacks for Young. So if I'm going to put some money on somebody, it's going to be Casas right now.
Yeah, same here. It's not even close for me. Tristan Casas, he's very Kyle Schwarber-esque, where, he walks a lot, strikes out a lot, and he's barreling the ball 11.5% of the time. So, man, he came out of the gates. He looks great. I know they're going to slot him in right at that 4 spot. There'll be no questions. But right when Tristan's ready, yeah, you do see him in the dugout and then like in the bullpen doing tracking the pitches. It's kind of weird, but you don't have to question if he takes his recovery seriously. He is all about it. So yeah, Tristan Casas for me over Josh Young.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a clean sweep. I think we don't talk about as much the mental impact this has. Josh Young was very, very down, and it was very notable when he got the fractured wrist. Understandably so. I mean, he had a great start to the season. He hit 2 homers, 6 RBIs in 4 games, coming off a World Series championship where he hit 23 homers and 70 RBIs. So it is very disappointing. And part of you wonders maybe especially if the Rangers start to falter a little bit, if he just takes a mental reset and tries to get healthy for the next season. Keep in mind, he's still 26 years old. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Going into your age 27 season, be mentally ready, be physically ready. I don't know. 6 weeks from what we've seen from them, say, ever since it's happened in April, it doesn't give me any confidence.
Especially with the wrist. The biggest thing about Josh Young is his power. And, historically, wrist injuries take the longest for you to get your power. And as someone who actually broke their wrist, you guys recall a few years ago, it does take a long time to get that strength back to 100%, which is something he'll need.
Yeah. I'm not saying any of us are doctors, but I'm saying we've all had injuries. We know what it kind of feels like sometimes. Not going to say all the time, but, for all those injured guys, at the end of the day, baseball is better when they are in. So for our last segment tonight, Art came up with the last one. Marty came up with this one. We are reviewing the BAT-X projections for the rest of the season, talking about if we think players will clear this threshold, benchmark, whatever you want to call it. And why not start off with the number 1 overall pick in fantasy baseball, Ronald Acuna Jr., disappointing no matter how you slice it. For the rest of the season, Marty, is Ronald Acuna going to hit 25 home runs total?
So looking at the BAT-X rest of season projections, they have him from here on out. They think he's going to hit 25 more home runs. So far, he's hit 3. So that would give him a total of 28. When the season started, his BAT-X totals were somewhere around 35 home runs. So they've already adjusted to kind of this his less of a launch angle and just spraying the ball all over the place. He's still hitting it well. Will I think he will hit 25 home runs starting from today? I do think he will. I think he will be able to hit the 25 home runs over these next few months as Atlanta, Georgia heats up. And Doc, you know this. You were just there catching a game at Truist Park in the summer. Woo-wee. It gets hot and sticky down there. That ball flies out. It's a complete hitter's park. Everyone around him has pretty much underperformed. And Sean Murphy's been out since the first game of the season. So I think as that offense comes together over the summer, including in the rise in the heat and making that ballpark even more friendly, I think he's going to be able to hit the 25 home runs. I don't think he's going to go over that. I think that's his max. So I'm actually surprised the BAT-X has him at that. I think that will be if he turns right again. I think 25 will what he'll do.
Art.
So I agree with Marty's logic. I was trying to think about when he had a poor power stretch of his career, and then I remembered 2022 when he hit 15 home runs over the entire season, 533 plate appearances. But I think that was more of an injury return thing, and I have a hard time. Like, this is the type of player who could hit 15 home runs in a month pretty easily. Right now, his strikeout percentage is up, and that's concerning because it had dropped a lot last season, and that was one of the main growths in his batting average, was the fact that he was striking out so little. But I think that there's no way he's gonna be kept down this long. I'm surprised he only has 3. It's really surprising he only has 3.
Yeah, looking at his hard hit percentage, it's his barrel rate has plummeted. It's usually like around the 96th percentile. Right now, it's at the 58th percentile. So I don't know. This is where we're definitely not doctors, but having knee problems, can that affect your swing like it did for him a few years ago? Because it did a few years ago when he was recovering from this torn ACL.
Remember before the season started, he tweaked it in a preseason game and went
That's
to get
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think that has a factor. And I think last year was a career year. I mean, obviously, it's stating the obvious.
Yeah.
But Art, you touched on it. The K percentage, 11.4%. It was never below 23.6 prior to that. I mean, to think that he was going to keep that up, even some regression to the mean, I'm not saying it's at the 24.2% it is this year, but maybe like 17, 18%. His walk percentage is also the highest it's been in 3 seasons. It's up from 10.9 to 12.6 this year. I mean, as someone that has a lot of money on his stolen bases, that seemed like that was kind of his MO to begin the season, was to get a walk and to steal and put himself in scoring position. And he only stopped the aggression somewhat recent when he got picked off 3 times in 2 games. So I'm going on the under. I don't think he's going to hit 25 more home runs. I'm not saying it wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I think he's got a lot of climbing to do to hit that. So Acuna might be another guy, though, if you really believe that he's going to hit 25 or more home runs for the rest of the season. You'd have to trade something substantial for him, but maybe a buy low compared to where you had him before.
Yeah,
Looking at the next guy. Oh, go ahead, Art.
Yeah, I was just looking at, if the projections came through, he would finish with 28 home runs and 39 steals, which would be a down season for him, but it'd still be pretty sweet return for a first round pick.
Yeah, I'd agree. Art, staying with you. Will Vlad Jr. hit 22 more home runs? He has 4 home runs right now.
Yes.
Say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes.
Yes, I think so. He's hitting the ball as hard as he ever has.
This is what peer pressure does. You didn't want to say yes.
I was going to say no.
I'm only saying that because I have him in multiple leagues. So
that would put him at 26. I think that Vlad's power has been overrated. Vlad's home run power has been overrated since that 48 home run season. So, like, I would not be surprised if he finishes with under 25 home runs this season. So, but yeah, I guess I'd say I would say no if I was betting. Yeah, I would say no.
Yeah, just like Acuna, I want to say yes, but it's his launch angle. He's got a 7. His average launch angle right now is 7. So 7 degrees is not going to produce 30 home runs. When the seasons where he hit the most home runs, he had close to either a 9 or a 10 launch angle. So that's something we're going to see, because he's barreling the ball. Is the Art's point? He's hitting the ball extremely hard consistently, but he's hitting it into the ground, or he's hitting singles and he's hitting doubles, which is great, but not for us fantasy guys. So I'm going to say no. I don't think he does it, even though I really need him to. I don't think he will.
Marty, if you said yeah, I was going to say I know your favorite Wiz Khalifa song. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah.
I don't know that
That's
one,
it.
but shout out to Wiz though.
That's your homework after this show. Research "Say Yeah" by Wiz Khalifa.
I thought you were going to
I'm with
talk
you
about
guys.
Usher's song, "Yeah," which was
That would
that's
have been
just
okay.
that's
me.
yeah. But
Yeah.
Marty, when we'll listen back to this, you'll hear, Art, say yeah, say yeah, say yeah. I'm with you guys. I'm on the under as well. You look at his home run totals by year: 48, 32, 26 for this year. That's trending in the wrong direction. And it's not like he's missed a lot of time. He missed 1 game, then 2 games, then 6 games. He's been fairly healthy. Walk percentage is the highest of his career at 12.9%. His on-base percentage is the second highest of his career compared to when he hit that 48 home run season. I think this is who Vlad Jr. is, though. And I think the power gets a little bit better, but I think he's someone that has a higher average than the 264 we saw last year, but isn't going to be, the maybe classic 4 hitter that we thought that, maybe the American League Pete Alonso, bigger guy that you're afraid to pitch around and a good lineup around him, good hitting shortstop in front of you. I just don't think that Vlad is that guy anymore. And I think the biggest drop off in his game is the power.
And we've also not talked about it, but it's going around how home runs are down across the league as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to, we never know how that's going to change. Is it the ball? Is it there's some other reason? But home runs are down. And at this point, if you were going to bet smartly based upon what's happened, you'd bet the under on all the home run totals, I think. But maybe StatCast smarter than I give them credit for with that statement, and they've learned to figure the new environment into or how to do that.
All right, you just gave me a shout out by saying if you're a smart man, you bet the unders, which is what I do.
Only thing I want to add, what I'm saying about Vlad, looking at his profile and as he's progressing in his career, I think he's closer to a Joey Votto-esque player, where 28, 29, 30 home runs, 350 OBP. If you watch this at bats, he's incredibly smart. He's actually an amazing hitter. It's only the power people are looking at, saying he's not producing. If you watch him day in, day out, he just got off another hitting streak. It's the team around him who's underperforming. So the ball skills are incredible. It's the launch angle he needs to correct. And if he can get that up, maybe the Ks might go up a little bit more, but that's when we're going to see him hit 30 plus.
Marty, I agree. Very, very. This is how we know that we're baseball fans. You don't just look at the stats. Next topic here. Who will hit more home runs rest of season? Bobby Witt Jr., who currently has 5, or Willy Adames, who has 7. BatX projects them to both hit 20.
I'm going to stick with Bobby Witt Jr., even though he's not really, he hasn't sold out for power. He has power and he's able to do really well with that, but he's able to keep his strikeout rate down and everything like that. So I think he has the better opportunity, even though he has not sold fully out for power. But Willy Adames, for where you drafted him, he is everything you thought he'd be in 2022 and 2023 when he struggled. This is the guy you wanted who can hit you 30-plus bombs. It's just going to go. If he gets into one of his streaks where he's striking out 35% of the time, it's going to be risky. But I go Bobby Witt. I'm not very brave there, but that's who I'll take.
Marty, did you look at the box score tonight?
No.
Bobby Witt has 2 home runs.
Hey!
Really? Oh.
Bobby Witt has 2 home runs. But Marty brought this question up before the game started. So Bobby Witt has a 2-0 lead on Adames. I'm going with Bobby Witt just for that.
I was looking, if you look at an expected home runs or not, it's not like a perfect stat, but he has 5. He had 5 going into tonight with it, and he would have had 14 with the Dodgers and 14 with the Brewers, 13 with the Reds, 12.
He would have 9 more home runs if he would have been on a different team. Is that what
with the Dodgers? Yeah, well, yeah, expected home runs by Park.
Yeah. Wow.
So, if he was playing, I guess if he played all his games in Dodger Stadium, he'd have 9 more home runs. And
what about Red Stadium?
He's
can
at
you see that?
13 in Red Stadium. One more in
Wow.
Dodger. I'm surprised. Dodger Stadium was never this much of a power stadium until the last couple seasons. It was always a pitcher's park. So it's surprising. But Witt is like Vlad. He doesn't hit the ball quite as hard as Maxi. He's not as good, but he has a better launch angle. And but he's got that elite hard hit rate. And his launch angle is at 14, which is right about where you want it. You like a power is 14 to like 20 something is like a power stroke. That's like a home run launch angle. So I think Witt's gonna end up with 30 this year. Of course, that bet the under on the home runs. So
Nah, Bobby Witt gets the over on that. Remember, he's the Patrick Mahomes of baseball.
Ah, yes.
Last one I have here, and it's funny that Marty made this because this is a bet I made before the season. Randy Arozarena or Jazz Chisholm, more home runs rest of season. Both are expected to have 17 additional. To their current, Randy has 8, Jazz has 6. Marty, where are you going?
And this is the cop-out answer, but only because I don't think Jazz can stay healthy. I'm going to go Randy.
No, it's not the cop-out one. That's what I'm going.
I think you kind of have to do that because Randy stays relatively healthy, even though when you look to his numbers, Randy is struggling this year. I was on the bandwagon earlier, maybe 3 weeks ago, for trading for him because I thought he was getting out of it. He was making better contact with the ball, getting on base a little bit more, but he's still slashing 158, 251, 322. So he is on. I saw Eric Cross tweet this. I think he's on a 25 home runs, 25 stolen base pace, with batting around barely over 200. So I think that's okay for deeper leagues. But to answer your question, I'm going to go Randy or Arozarena over Jazz Chisholm Jr.
By the way, that's not a cop-out answer because health factors into this. Art, where are you going?
Yeah, I think Jazz is going to have is on a better season. Is going to have more. I think I'm not liking the shape of Arozarena's season so far. Zone contact's way down. He's looking to start. He's like we talked about him a few weeks ago. He's starting to look like he's losing some of his talent, his skills. Randy's zone contact's gone down each year the last 3 years. He's still hitting for power, but I mean, can Tampa Bay continue to play a 158 hitter every day? I mean, when is Arozarena going to start seeing some time off?
So I will have my man Randy's back, like a security guard. Randy Arozarena in March and April, 30 games, 3 homers, a 143 average. In 17 games in May, 185 average, 5 home runs. So I'm not saying it's great, but in 13 games less, he's having a 42, adding 42 points to his batting average and 2 more home runs. It's trending in the right direction barely. And the one thing about Jazz, even if he has a minor injury, the Marlins have every incentive to rest him.
It's true, and you're right. He's hitting 185, so he's smoking it this month.
You're
Smoking
right.
the ball.
Hey, he is close to the Mendoza line. That's all we can ask for.
He's close.
He's almost at 1 out of every 5 hits.
He's almost at the Schwab line.
Come on. We got to give him a little bit of credit. The last thing I want to ask you guys before we sign off for the night, as we are at the hour and 4-minute mark, there is a bet on DraftKings and on MGM. Elly De La Cruz over under 99.5 stolen bases. Now, the under is juiced to like minus 450, minus 500. And I don't think he gets 100. Maybe you guys do. Give me the number that you think Elly De La Cruz finishes with in terms of stolen bases.
Let me ask you this. How many does he currently have?
He has 30.
So he has 30. Man, that's
he has 31. They've played 48.
Right, 30.
He has
Is that
30, and they've played 48 games.
Sorry.
Okay.
I thought he had
And
more.
and your question is, how many do you think he'll finish the season with?
Yep.
I'm going to say 65.
Okay. Art.
I thought he was at more stolen bases right already. I thought he was at like 37. I think he's going to pass 70. I think he's going to pass Acuna 70 from last year. I think he'll go 75. I thought he was at like 37 already. I don't know why.
Wow, maybe I was just being really generous. I put 87.
He's on pace to definitely do that. It's the strikeout percentage that's still high. I know he's batting around that and he's hitting home runs and he looks good, but and you play that hard all the time. You know, he's playing at a hard position. Injuries happen. You know, if he slightly tweaks something, it could take away the smallest hamstring takes away 100 for sure. You know?
Yeah. I'm now having a little bit of regret I didn't bet on this. Hopefully they still have it up. But barring him staying healthy, I mean, he's going to – I don't want to say it's a slam dunk that he beats Acuna, but he had 30 going into 47 games tonight. I mean, he has a 4 stolen base game this season, and he has a stretch where he had 2 stolen bases in 3 consecutive games. Those add up quickly.
Yeah, he's my biggest miss because I had him last year, and those last 2 months he was so bad that I was like, nah, he's not worth a second round pick. I knew I was in trouble when Lucas Beery drafted him in the second round of Glarf because Lucas he's one of the best players I've ever seen by far.
Let me say this. I'm all for taking victory laps. I think I might take the most victory laps on this podcast. I need to eat the biggest L that I've ever taken. Marty, you, me, and David were holding hands and, patting each other on the back. Oh, great call saying Ellie's a bust. Joke's on us.
I don't know if we ever said he's a bust. I just don't. I know I didn't, but like a second round pick, I wasn't.
I said a bust at ADP.
It's a second round pick, so it's like you got.
Yeah, I'm taking ownership.
As someone who drafted Michael Harris, not over Ellie De La Cruz, because I definitely would have drafted De La Cruz, but I drafted Michael Harris. He has a below average OPS and only 4 home runs and hasn't done much. So, I mean, to get that in the second round, don't always get the most conservative player. It doesn't, once in a while, go for that shiny player that has huge upside, and it might work out. If it does, it can win your league.
I'm going to play this before your drafts next season.
Yeah. Hey, if I do 10, I'm going to take a shot.
I mean, that's the same argument they made for what the heck, Adalberto Mondesi, though.
Yikes.
For the Ellie argument,
where
it's like if he hits, but I mean, Ellie's obviously better than Mondesi.
The one thing I'll say about Mondesi to wrap us out, Mondesi, you were banking strictly on stolen bases when stolen bases weren't as easy to get. With Ellie, I think he's kind of an all or nothing type of guy. Mondesi was always banking on the speed.
Man, Ellie's walking 11.4% of the time. It's just, oof.
It's funny how recency bias goes. Comes up, he's the most exciting thing. Borderline undrop or borderline not rosterable to end the season, and then
it made sense
to begin the season.
He was lost. Like his zone contact rate was terrible. Like he just didn't. He looked like Javi Baez. I mean, to be honest, and that to me scared me enough. But
Javi Baez is a rich man. I'm sure he'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not. I actually know what Javi Baez does care, and he is pissed that he sucks. So I do respect that, but it doesn't help.
That's true.
Yeah, Ellie's zone contact is actually way down this year. It's actually way down. So
it'll be interesting as we get into the later parts of the season. What holds true and what doesn't? I think this is a good episode to review in the future for Skeen's value, for the buy and sell guys, for the rest of the season who we were talking about. And I think this shadowed us well for next week as we talk about some guys that will be good stashes and, maybe players that are good trade targets, because you can't wait before the deadline to make these moves. You have to kind of make some decisions month and a half into the season.
Yep.
But LC, Marty, anything before we get out of here?
Just touching on exactly what you just said. This is the time where managers start to get, a little scared, right? Those 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place teams start to look at their rosters to see who you can get.
And LC's got it on mute, just jamming his head back and forth for the background.
I got nothing. I think we covered it.
Well, we might have David back in the future, like the shows without him, like the shows with him even more. But for Doc, for LC, Marty Party, we're going to make like a bread truck, haul these buns. Catch you guys next week. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back next Monday.